Welcome to the Tech Talks Daily Podcast, where you can learn and be inspired by real-world examples of how technology is transforming businesses and reshaping industries in a language everyone can understand. Here is your host, Neil C. Hughes.
Welcome back to the Tech Talks Daily Podcast. It's been a few years since I left the world of IT behind, but when I was there, I was amused, or maybe bemused, by how IT constantly tried to tell every department everything had to come through them. And the only reason I say that is because the world was quickly changing and everyone was having to adapt. And if we look back now, it's easy to see how quickly everything changed with the arrival of shadow IT as apps such as Slack, Trello, and an army of digital apps snuck in through the back door without the need for lengthy chats with the guardians of the network, which typically resulted in no, or, yeah, we can do that in 18 months. Because, of course, the world has changed now and everyone and every business must move faster. And a company called Zapier has the unique position as the connector between over 1,500 of the most popular business apps. And in their role as connector, it also allows them to see early soft trends from some of today's most productive workers. And these are people adopting apps that help them achieve more, but in less time. So what did they do? Well, they created a report that analysed the usage of over 4 million users across those 1,500 apps and determined which apps are growing the fastest, and also unveil a few other trends and what that means for businesses moving forward. So at that point, I want to invite you to accompany me on a road trip to California, where Wade Foster is going to tell us all about the most popular business apps, both on and under the radar of IT. So a massive warm welcome to the show, Wade. Can you tell the listeners a little more about who you are and what you do?
Yeah, so my name's Wade. I'm the co-founder and CEO at Zapier. Zapier is an automation platform that helps you connect all the tools you might be using at work. So we hook into 1,500 different apps, but things like Slack, G Suite, Trello, MailChimp, QuickBooks, PayPal, all these tools that you probably use day in and day out to get your work done. We can probably help you build little automations and connect them. We've been at this thing for about 8 years now. So in technology land, we've been at it for a long time, but we're still having fun and hopefully can keep doing it for quite a while longer.
And as a podcaster, I've got to say that all those apps and tools you just mentioned are the bane of my life. I can spot every notification as I'm recording a podcast just by the first tone, especially those Slack ones.
Ping, ping.
Yes. But I mean, every day on this podcast, I love exploring how technology is just impacting almost every industry now. So when I discovered Zapier's Apps at Work report, which is, I think it's the fastest growing apps of 2019, and it looks at how technology has changed the workplace this year, I had to get you on the show today just to find out a little bit more. But before I offer any too many spoilers, can you tell me a little bit more about the report and maybe set the scene?
Yeah, so we pay attention every year to which apps on Zapier are growing the fastest. So we connect into all these different tools. We have 4 million people on Zapier, so we can sort of see which apps are getting more and more usage and which ones may not be getting some of those usage. And inside of that data, we try and form hypotheses and tell stories about how the workforce seems to be changing based on which tools are getting more adoption and getting connected with other tools more and more and more. And so that's the crux of what this report tries to do, is give people a little bit of a better insight into what's happening in the workplace.
And one of the key stats that really stood out for me was that more than 3 in 4 of people surveyed said that they would list automation as a skill on their resume or job application. Did that or anything else in the report surprise you?
You know, I think for us, not too much, but we live in this world day in and day out. So we get to see this all the time. We notice how much automation is changing every job. I think we tend to think of automation as something that's for manufacturing and robots and things like that. But we see small businesses, the small business owner, we see a real estate agent, we see an accountant, we see a lawyer who's finding ways to use these tools, these modern tools like QuickBooks and Slack and Trello and things like that, to build little automations. And if you make the software easy enough for folks to use, people are finding new ways to adopt it. And so what's happening is These folks have sort of uncovered the power of automation. They can figure out, wow, I can save a lot of time on busy work. And in some cases, many cases, in fact, I can actually build things that I wouldn't have been able to build before. And so now when they go out looking for a job, they're saying, hey, I know what's going to be really valuable to a future employer is I can probably build some stuff that might help them save a lot of time, save a lot of money, or do things that they aren't even doing yet that could help grow their business. And that's a pretty marketable skill for somebody.
And also, something I'm really intrigued about and interested in what you're going to reveal here. Because I think if we look at all the old school corporate offices throughout the land, they're all going to be hoping that Microsoft tools are going to be the ones that they can control are the fastest growing apps for work. But I don't think that is the case. So can you tell me a little bit more about what exactly the fastest growing apps for work are now and just how much growth they're experiencing year on year?
Yeah, so some of the fastest growing apps, things like ManyChat, Front, Mojo, Dubsado, all these tools are growing over 400% year over year on Zapier's platform, which speaks to the adoption these tools are getting. And what you'll notice about these tools is that in many cases, they solve a very specific problem, and they solve it in sort of a new way. So if you think about sort of the first web tools that we were using, predominantly what they were doing was moving things that were desktop apps. So think about like Microsoft Office or Excel or Word. These were things that you used on your desktop. Google comes along and says, you know what, we can make this better by putting it on the web. If we create Google Docs, Google Sheets, Gmail, these tools will now be accessible not only in the web, so that means you can use it at your desktop, but you can also use it on your phone while you're on the go. And it made it just a little more accessible to use all these tools. However, these modern suite of tools, these fastest growing ones, aren't thinking about how do we make offline parallels for online work. They're actually starting with, hey, work happens on your phone no matter what from the get-go. This is how people work. And so given that, what types of digital first workflows can we build that are going to help customers out? So what does a real estate do when they have a phone in their hand when they're at every one of their listings? You know, they're not writing things down on pen and paper anymore. They've got an iPad or they got an iPhone or they got some device with them. And that means that there's whole new types of tools and technology that's going to change the way that those people work. And so what we see in these fastest growing apps is that a lot of these companies and products are taking totally new approaches to solving workflows that exist in a whole wide range of industries.
And for people listening that have not heard of some of those apps, can you just run through them again? Just tell me the kind of problems that they're solving.
So ManyChat is this, it's social media management. It's a Facebook bot, effectively. And so if you're a small business and you're trying to communicate with your customers on Facebook, ManyChat will help you. It's part AI, so a part bot will talk to them. And then sometimes if the bot gets confused, it escalates to a human that can chat with you directly via Facebook. Front is an email inbox that's shared. So if, for example, I get a lot of email, but as a company, we get a lot of email to a sales at email address or a support at email address or a help desk at email address. And it's not just me that's helping solve those, answer those emails. It's a team that's helping answer those emails. So Front will help you do that. Then you have things like Mojo, which is a real estate specific CRM. So it helps real estate agents manage their prospects in the home buying process. Then you have tools like Dubsado, which specifically help small freelancers, folks like photographers, designers, folks in the creative space really run their client management, things like invoicing, payments, projects, things like that. So you can see in each of these top tools, they're targeted on specific industries and very specific workflows that in and of themselves are going to be quite large industries in some point in time.
So unsurprisingly then, I did read that nearly 1 in 5 people use 9 or more apps during their working day. I mean, can you expand on those findings? Is that a surprise to you or possibly not as well?
Similarly, this is something we live and breathe every day. So, you know, right now I have multiple apps open on my own desktop. I have Chrome open, I have Skype open, I have Slack open, I have Simple Notes, which is a note-taking tool, open. So just right now, I have 4 things open on my desktop that I'm using. And as soon as we get off this Skype call, I'm sure I'll pop open my email and then I'll pop open a Google Doc and start working on some other things like that. So I think most of us know that we use more apps at work, but we don't always think about it. And so if you stop right now and just sort of start to count up, hey, what are the most important tools that I use at work? You probably won't have to think very hard to realize that, maybe there's a half dozen or a dozen different tools that I use pretty consistently in the workforce.
Absolutely. I know I use at least 9, possibly a lot more as well. But like you say, you don't realize, you just automatically do it. And it helps you save time, make you more productive and makes your life easier. So, and there is a lot of talk at the moment around automation. But did the report reveal any trends about that automation of tasks and how it's gaining traction in new industries too?
I think real estate is the one that really comes to mind for us. Marketers for the longest time have been sort of the pioneers of automation. You think of marketing automation and email automation as a thing that you probably are a recipient of, even if you're not thinking about it. Your inbox is full of newsletters and outbound email and things from marketers who are trying to get you to buy stuff. That's been around for a long time. One of the things we've noticed is that real estate agents are starting to get more sophisticated with how they use automation to manage the buying and selling process of homes, whether it's the relationship they have with the buyer and the seller, or a lot of the paperwork. It's just a lot of paperwork that goes into buying and selling a home. And can they make that a lot easier to do on mobile devices while you're on the go? Can you sign things while you're there? And can you make these workflows a lot faster? And so real estate agents has been an industry that stood out to us as one that's getting a lot more sophisticated in how they work with their buyers and sellers.
And of course, we have highlighted quite a few trends around apps in the workplace and indeed automation. But for people listening and hearing about Zapier for the very first time, can you possibly tell me a little bit more about this kind of unique position that you've got here as the connector between over 1,500 of the most popular business apps? And most importantly, of course, is how it enables you to see the early software trends from some of today's most productive workers all over the world.
Yeah, I think, you basically said it yourself where, Zapier connects with over 1,500 different tools. And the fact that most people are using, 9+ tools in the workforce means that they need those tools to work well together. And so that's where a tool like Zapier comes in and is really helpful for the users of these software, because they're able to push data between the two of them in ways that make them more productive, build automation that makes them work faster. And as a result, we get to see the flow of information happening across all these different tools and see which ones are becoming more and more popular over time. And with that, our hope is that we can make using these tools even easier, even better, and help you be more productive.
And like you said, you live and breathe this space every day. So I've got to ask, is there anything that particularly excites you, makes you optimistic about the findings in the report?
Yeah, I think the thing that gets me really excited is just how many tools are being built to solve very specific needs. When you read through this report, there will be some names that you'll recognize, but a lot of them you'll go, I'm not sure if I've ever heard of that company before. And the reason why is that it is easy now for a software developer, for an entrepreneur, to build a product that targets a very specific industry and a very specific need and build a good business based on that. And so to me, I'm really excited for us to see so many different software that's being built that targets the use cases that fit you specifically. So if you're, a teacher in higher education, you're going to have software that fits your needs really great. Or if you're a real estate agent, you're going to have a different set of software that fits your needs really, really well. And so that's exciting to me because in the past, we sort of were all stuck using these like one size fits all software that, worked pretty good. But it's nice to see these very specialized software coming to the market that helps you really solve your use case nicely.
And how will you at Zapier, how are you going to use these findings in the report to help you evolve as a company and improve too?
Yeah, for us, we get to see what's working. So with these fastest growing apps, we can tell what's working for these companies, what's going really, really well. And we can use that to help educate other entrepreneurs, other software companies who are coming behind building their products and say, hey, these are the things that we think make really good software companies, what makes really good automation. And maybe these are some best practices you can adopt too. So with reports like these, we feel like we're able to better educate these entrepreneurs and software providers on how they can build their apps to be successful.
And for anybody who wants to download that report or find out more information about the kind of thing that you're doing at Zapier and how you can help their business, can you just point the listeners in the direction of where they can get that report, find your website, and contact your team too if they've got any questions? Yeah,
if you're looking for the report, you can just do a quick Google search for fastest growing apps with Zapier, and you'll find us as the first result there. It's at zapier.com/apps/fastest growing apps. Is where the report lives. And if you're wanting to get a hold of us, you can always check out the site, check out Zapier, see how it might help you at zapier.com. You can sign up for a free account and get started today. And if you're looking to stay closer to me, I'm on Twitter fairly regularly at Wade Foster, and happy to engage with folks on the platform there.
Well, it doesn't seem that long ago for my shadow IT days that the new apps were simply just Trello and Slack. But like I said, there's over 1,500 now, and so many big new players such as Mojo, ManyChat, and Front are just a few that we mentioned today. But I love what you're doing here, and I find the insights that you're unveiling from this report to be incredibly intriguing and shows you this digital first world and how it's evolving. So more than anything, just a big thank you for coming on and sharing all those insights with me today. Thanks again.
Yeah, thanks for having me, Neil. This was great.
A big thank you to Wade for coming on and sharing those insights with us today. And some of the highlights there, 25 of the fastest growing apps for work are averaging over 250% growth year on year. And also that stat, I think it was nearly 1 in 5 people use 9 or more apps at work. I'm a little bit surprised that's not even higher, because I think most people listening are going to be using a lot of apps when they enter the office in the morning. And if you can automate something and make your life easier, we're going to do it, aren't we? And for that reason alone, automating tasks is increasingly gaining traction in new industries that you don't automatically associate with technology too, such as real estate, which is a great example. So fantastic insights there, gained from 4 million users across 1,500 plus business apps. But I'm curious, what are the most used applications in your daily routine? Are the usual suspects such as Trello, Slack, Mojo, ManyChat and Front present? Or is there something else that you want to shout about from the rooftops that will be incredibly valuable to people in your industry or your niche? If there is, don't keep it to yourself. I want you to email me, techblogwriter@outlook.com, tweet me at Neil C. Hughes, and I'll share it on this show. I think it'd be really interesting to find out what applications people are using across multiple industries. And it might help somebody somewhere be a little bit more efficient and productive with their day, where they're currently blissfully unaware of some of these tools. But that's the aging inner hippie in me again, trying to use technology to bring people together and help make all our lives easier. And on that happy, peaceful note, I'm going to walk off into the sunset and say a big thank you for listening. And until next time, don't be a stranger.
Thank you for listening to the Tech Talks Daily Podcast with Neil C. Hughes. Remember, technology works best when it brings people together.